This is exciting. We have our two short sides joined to our center, and now we're going to be joining the long side. Where this basting line is, that's what we've left open for joining the units. We're going to do it just exactly the way we did in our first demonstration of joining the side units, where we're going to pin the backing out of the way. But first, what we're going to do is find the correct position of this. So we're going to use our working drawing again, and with some long pins, we know that that lines up right there. So we're going to pin that right there. And we can pin it up here to make sure this is going the way it needs to go. And remember, the quilting in it has shrunk the quilted part a little bit. So we're using our pins and we're creating our kind of a relief map. You know, it's not going to fit exactly, but we're lining it up with our intersections and pinning. So then we'll go down here. We know this is a side that is, those two are going to line up. But now I'm going to check. There's an intersection right here. I'm going to pin that. And I want this to be a straight line here. So that's pretty relaxed right there. There's not as much quilting in some of these side pieces as there are in the center, so it hasn't gotten quite as puffy here. But here's another intersection right here on this little triangle. So I'm just going to lift the paper and make sure that that is lined up. So we do that in several locations, and then we're going to mark. See, we've turned back our paper the way we did in the first short side, where we taped the drawing back to our finished edge that we had in our working drawing. And then we're going to mark this again with a chalk or a pen, because this line then is going to join to that edge right there, which is a finished edge. So for our doves, the ends of these long pieces, I'm just going to go through the point of the dove there, this old drunkard's path, and by picking the pattern up and, you know, piercing right there where that intersection comes together, and pin it. That's a good reference point for lining this up. These long pins are important. I'm going to pick under here to get there. And then I'll do the same thing on this edge too, so that I have a parallel edge here, because I'm going to use my chalk or my pencil to mark that edge. Sometimes you just have to lift the paper up a little bit. It's not going to lay flat because the quilt underneath has shrunk up somewhat from stitching and quilting. And then this is also should be the finished edge of the side of our quilt. So I want to show that too. And so I'm just picking that up and putting it on that line there, so that I have a straight edge that I'll mark. Hi, the power is off in our house. It's a little breezy here, gusty winds, and some power lines are down, but we're so lucky. This is the end of Irma breaking up. Our hearts go out to all the people that have had such severe damage. We're quite lucky. But we keep working on our project. I wanted to show you that the first long side of Happy in the Mountains is attached. And right now, we're going to go inside and show you a few tips on joining the long side to the rest of the quilt. So we have no control over the weather, but we can keep working on our project. At this point, I still have some stitching to do in this one long side. I have to stitch around the dove, Sometimes I wish for my old treadle sewing machine that I learned to stitch on many years ago. But we can use the glue stick, and we're using just the weight of this old iron to press this down to make sure when we turn this edge up. Here we're preparing to join the second unit where we've pinned the back and the batting out of the way, and this is the top of the quilt with the French views on it, and we've turned it back. We marked it. You saw how we marked it with the edge of our paper, and then we used lots of glue stick and just the weight of this iron to give us a nice edge. Now we're going to pin this last long edge that we have prepared to the body of our quilt. And of course, this is an easy place to start right here. We have to, this is the line that we marked, that's the finished edge of our quilt. And so we're going to bring our turned edge right up to that edge. So this is a nice straight line, and we'll pin that in place. So this edge has to be turned right there. Or not turned, but joined. That forms a nice straight line right there, right on our mark. I'm using these long pins to pin that in there. All right, and then we can see what this looks like. We know this goes right here. We can just ease that in. Let's see what it looks like. Actually, we have a mark right here in the center. See the center of our square with the doves in it? That forms a nice line. So we can just use that to find that position right there. So that worked out nicely. I'm just going to put a pin on either side of that. All right, now we're going to just finish pinning this. We'll be using our walking foot to attach this, and so we can ease it in a little bit. Remember, this part hasn't been quilted, so it's a little, you know, it seems like it's a little big. It's because it hasn't been stitched and quilted yet. All right, I wanted to give you some pointers for lining up this last section of the block with the dove in it, because we have some nice diagonal lines here. It's interrupted with this triangular shape. But all right, so by lining up our ruler here, we can move this just a little bit one way or the other and then place a pin. So this particular corner piece is a little stretchy. So by starting at that line first and then moving this over, we can position that